As the conflict with Russia approaches its 2-year anniversary, President Volodymyr Zelensky has disclosed that the Ukrainian military is looking to mobilize an additional 500,000 personnel. He acknowledged that this was a sensitive and expensive matter when he stated during a press conference in Kyiv that his commanders were looking for 450,000 to 500,000 individuals. He hinted that 500,000 soldiers were already on the front when he stated he required more information before supporting the action. Following the U.S. and EU's aid losses, he made these remarks. Earlier this month, the $60 billion, £47 billion military aid proposal for Ukraine was first blocked by Republicans in the U.S. Congress. White House and State Department officials stated this week that the United States was preparing to provide one more military aid package to Ukraine, but that unless Congress took action, it would not be able to send much more aid after that. Hungary's blockage of the EU's €50 billion, $55 billion, £43 billion financial aid agreement last week came after the U.S. setback. On the other hand, EU leaders promised that Ukraine would not be abandoned. Following Moscow's full-scale invasion in February 2022, Ukraine is currently fighting invading Russian forces while suffering from an ammo scarcity. At the beginning of winter, Kyiv's counteroffensive came to a standstill, raising concerns that Russia may outgun Ukraine. The First Lady of Ukraine, Olena Zelenska, expressed concern earlier this month in a BBC interview that Ukrainians were in mortal danger of being abandoned to perish in the absence of additional Western assistance. Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, declared last week that Moscow will carry out its invasion and that he would accomplish all of his objectives. The head of the Kremlin also announced that 617,000 Russian soldiers were engaged in what Moscow refers to as its special military operation at the moment. However, he acknowledged that the military needed to produce more drones because of issues with communication and air defense systems. Conference took place in the capital of Ukraine on Tuesday. The public was not informed of the time or location. The information was included in the confirmation letters sent to invited Ukrainian and international media. During the 2-hour event, the Ukrainian leader, dressed in his signature military attire, fielded a wide range of questions. According to him, the highest military leaders in Ukraine had proposed to mobilize an additional 450,000 to 500,000 individuals for the nation's military campaign. Before agreeing to the idea, he stressed that he needed more in-depth discussion because this was a very serious number. I need details. What will happen to the Ukrainian army, which consists of millions of soldiers, and to those individuals who have been protecting our state for the past 2 years? We have rotation and holiday problems. It ought to be a thorough plan. However, he disregarded any suggestions to organize women. Mr. Zelensky remained resolute when questioned by Jessica Parker of the BBC about whether Ukraine might be about to start losing the battle. No, came the response. It's the expected response, but our source in Kyiv adds that he's not the only one who has shown this kind of resolve. She continues, "A lot of people I've met will not tolerate anything other than driving out their Russian invaders." He played down allegations of a schism between him and Valery Zaluzhny, the head of Ukraine's armed forces, claiming to have working relations with him. He emphasized that he would work to fully restore Ukraine's internationally recognized borders, including Crimea, and that peace negotiations with Russia were not currently possible. The Ukrainian president tried to project confidence throughout the entire event, but at times, when questioned about allegations of corruption among politicians and government officials in his country, he came across as anxious and irritable. At an EU conference in Brussels on Thursday, European Council President Charles Michel, front right, speaks with Volodymyr Zelensky, front second right, the president of Ukraine, and Viktor Orban, second row center, the Prime Minister of Hungary. They all posed for a group photo. Even though the European Union resolved on Thursday to begin accession negotiations with the war-torn nation, the Union was unable to reach a consensus on a $54 billion aid package that Ukraine urgently needs to survive. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban denied the aid, dealing Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky yet another severe blow after he was unable to convince American senators to accept an additional $61 billion for Ukraine, primarily for the purchase of weaponry from the United States, this week. The beginning of accession negotiations was a historic event and a startling reversal for a war-torn nation that had long faced fierce resistance from Orbán and had struggled to secure support for its membership ambitions. After deciding not to veto the membership negotiations, the leader of Hungary blocked the aid package. Charles Michel, president of the European Council, stated, "I can tell you that 26 leaders agree on the budget negotiation. I should be quite detailed. As is customary in this nation, one leader, Sweden, needs to confer with the parliament, but the other leader couldn't agree." Nevertheless, Michel, who was presiding over the summit in Brussels, referred to the initiation of accession negotiations as a clear signal of hope for their people and our continent. On Thursday, December 14, 2023, outside of an EU conference in Brussels, people strolled by holiday lights. Leaders of the European Union will talk about the latest in Russia's aggressive campaign against Ukraine during a two-day summit, as well as the EU's ongoing support for Ukraine and its people. Bakhmut region, Ukraine, on December 8, 2023, in Bakhmut region, Ukraine, a Ukrainian T-64 tank is put into combat in the Bakhmut district. After a year-long war, Russian soldiers took Bakhmut in May, and Ukrainian forces are still fighting to recover it. Russia still controls Bakhmut, but Ukraine reclaimed land to the north and south of the city throughout the summer. FIL. On Wednesday, October 18, 2023, on Capitol Hill in Washington, Senator James Lankford, R.O. meets with the media regarding Israel. President Joe Biden's chances of striking a deal to extend U.S. assistance to Ukraine by year's end seem to be dwindling. Republicans are adamant that the financing be combined with adjustments to U.S. immigration and border laws. On Wednesday, December 13, 2023, soldiers from the pro-Ukrainian Russian Ethnic Siberian Battalion relax at a military drill near Kyiv, Ukraine. The Ukrainian military has assembled a battalion of Russian citizens who wish to repel an invasion by their country. Zelensky hailed the deal as a victory for Ukraine, despite the fact that it may take many years from the start of negotiations to Ukraine's eventual admittance, the triumph of all of Europe. Zelensky once remarked, "Those who never give up fighting for freedom make history." Both the additional funding and an evaluation of the EU budget were blocked by Orbán, making it impossible to approve the financial package. To enable its battered economy survive in the upcoming year, Ukraine is heavily reliant on the funding. Prior to the conference, Orbán had issued a warning, claiming that pushing a decision on Ukraine concerns could split the EU. All 27 of the EU's member states must agree on decisions about EU expansion and the long-term budget review, which includes the $54.1 billion in aid for the Kyiv government. In the end, Orbán withdrew his threat to block the initiation of admission negotiations. The start of membership talks, according to Belgian Prime Minister Alexander De Croo, is a slap in the face to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Moscow is receiving a very clear message. "We Europeans never give up on Ukraine," he remarked. Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, stands on the Elbe River embankment on Wednesday, October 11, 2006, while touring Dresden, Germany. On Tuesday, President Vladimir Putin traveled to Dresden, where he had a meeting with German Chancellor Angela Merkel to discuss the nuclear program in Iran and the expanding commercial relations between Russia and Germany. Orbán stated that while he would not exercise his veto, he would not change his position because the 26 other countries were making such a compelling case for it. An abstention does not bar a decision from being accepted under EU regulations. Hungary's stance is unambiguous. "We should not start talks on Ukraine's EU membership just now. It's a wholly incorrect, unreasonable, and nonsensical choice," he declared. Others praised Orbán's action. They had spent an extra day on Saturday getting ready for the summit. To be fair to Prime Minister Orbán, he presented his point with great vigor. Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar stated he disagrees with this decision and he's not changing his opinion in that sense, but he basically decided not to use the veto power. A slightly different opinion was expressed by De Croo of Belgium, who claimed that Orbán didn't use his veto because he realized that it would be indefensible. That's where we wrap things up for the time being. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.